Yo, check out my website, www.theclownthompson.net. That's clown spelled with K as you see here. As you see, here are my rants here. I'll be more and more regular in posting rants in the future. You see what I have going on here. Also, you can also get your merch here at www.cafepress.com. Search for the Clown Town Sports. You see here I have sweatshirts, hoodies, baby gear, mugs, t-shirts. So just come on over and grab yourself some merch. Thank you for tuning in to tonight's podcast. Please do like, comment, share, subscribe because you'll be happy and we'll be happy. All right, so we're gonna get to it tonight. We have, you see my partner right here. We have the NCAA tournament going on, and you're gonna have two happy people tonight on this podcast. We'll get to why in a second. And if you know, you know. Anyway, joining me now is my man. Y'all know him from the Yards, that's HBCU Sports, raps about all things HBCU Sports, as well as Sleazy Widow every Tuesday night on Facebook Live and YouTube. And last but not least, his great work on herosports.com, where he writes about all things FCS athletics as they pertain to HBCU sports. The man is back in the house, Duane Nash. How you doing, bro?
God, I'm good. How about yourself, brother?
I'm good. I'm good. So let's get to it, man. I mean, it's the big tournament. Um, it's been pretty good night for for the world of HBCU athletics. First of all, congrats to Tennessee State making it out of the OVC. Props to Noah Smith, the head coach, former Dookie. Also, I was at UD Arena last night in Dayton. It's only like a 45-minute drive north of here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I live in Cincinnati, so it's only right highway Interstate 75, literally. And I got there in time to see the second half of Howard v. UMBC because I was really there to see NC State lose to Texas. But that's another story for another time.
That's
That
oh
was a
man.
gut wrenching.
I've heard about that game. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I've heard some
It,
interesting things about that game.
it
Yeah.
was a gut wrenching ending. Dude
Hmm.
made this Tremaine. His last name is Mac. Forget his first name. Hit a shot, game winning shot with 1.1 seconds left. We battled back after we had a cold start to begin the game, but I'm not going to use this to down our mood. Let's focus on the positive. Well, we're both happy, right? I already mentioned Tennessee State. Howard, they handled their business. They almost gave the game away because it could hit their free throws at the end, but hey, a win is a win.
Yeah.
And Prairie View is whooping that ass right now, whooping that Lehigh ass right now.
Wow.
Yeah. But, so now we have not one, not two, but three HBCUs in the NCAA tournament. I don't know if that's ever been done before, but yeah, I see you like in the brain right
I'm,
now.
I'm
But
I'm doing the math. So it has to have been, what was it, over 30 years ago, the last time that oddly enough Tennessee State made it to the tournament. So that has to be the last time.
right, there you go. There you go. So yeah, it's only happened twice, basically. So I know you've been watching those games. So what was this what's so sorry the Howard game quickly? What has been the standout performance? What stood out to you in the Howard win over UMBC last
Well, the way that they started out the game by playing, well, something. I'm old school basketball.
night? Me too.
My thing is, I understand this. Well, I don't understand it. I tend to get along with it now because it's the norm in terms of this positionless basketball where everyone likes to shoot from everywhere.
Right.
My thing is, the higher the percentage, the higher chance you have of making a bucket. So why not
Hmm.
take it to the hole as much as possible?
Right.
But I also understand that threes beat twos, but mathematically, you're going to hit more higher percentage shots than you will taking outside shots, and that's exactly what Howard started out the game doing last night, taking it to the hole. But they relied most definitely on their guys that have been big for them for the most part of the season in terms of Bryce Harris and
Right.
Osei, Okoje. Both of them had big nights last night. But the thing that stood out to me the most, and I don't know if you saw this graphic, um, that came out. I think it was last night after their win. Of course, everyone knows this is their first ever tournament win. This is most definitely the first win under Coach Blakeney as well. Well,
Right.
I'm sorry, for Coach Blakeney as a head coach. But there's some things that Coach Blakeney was able to do with this Howard program since becoming head coach that hasn't been done a lot under this program. And I'm going to go ahead and look at these things. The graphic actually is labeled the KB effect. Before KB, which is 48 seasons, Howard had 3 20-win seasons, 4 regular season titles, 3 MEAC tournament titles, and 2 NCAA Division I tournament appearances after they became the D1 in 1980. Under KB, over the past 6 seasons, they have 2 20-win seasons, which is one shy of what they did the first 48 years before he got there.
Wow.
2 regular season titles, which is 2 shy of what happened before the first 48 years he was there. He's already tied the tournament titles with 3 and has 3 NCAA tournament appearances, which surpasses the amount of tournament appearances that they've had as a program before he got there. And that's been dynamic for Coach Blakeney, especially what his program has had to deal with since he's gotten there in 2019. We all remember your boy who was his big time recruit back during COVID. Can you remember his name?
I forgot his name, but I know exactly who you're talking about.
I forgot his name too. I'm not even going to sit here and lie to you, Scott. But I know it was it's McCord Maker's. Actually, it's McCord Maker. That's who it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So McCord Maker was the big time recruit that got there. Barely got on the floor for Howard. I think he played like a game or two, then blew out his knee, sat out the rest of the season, and then decided to go pro after that brief appearance there in Georgia Avenue. Then you fast forward to a couple of years later, they won a couple of tournaments, conference tournaments after that. Then they end up having the Rookie of the Year in Blake Harper last season, even though they played subpar last season.
Right.
But after 1 year of playing at Howard, which was a phenomenal season for him there, where he became Freshman of the Year here in the MEAC, he ended up going to Creighton. And then other players like Elijah Hawkins, he would eventually transfer to Minnesota and then following Texas Tech after that. After spending a short stint there at Howard, same thing with Steve Settles, who went from Howard to Temple and is now playing in the G League and has a short stint with the Miami Heat. And Shy Odom, who would transfer, again, another short stint at Howard, will go to Vermont. So he's been dealing with a lot of turnover there on Georgia Avenue, but has been able to become, I guess you can say, a perennial winner. They've won 3 of the last 4 MEAC tournaments, which is phenomenal. Something that we haven't seen that type of dominance in since pre-COVID, when North Carolina Central was making that type of run. But, I'm intrigued to see what happens. They got a lot of seniors on this team. And then, of course, a lot of talented guys. Does that mean another exodus once this run is over with? And will that's the other thing I'm afraid of, too. Will KB continue to stay there after a year or two with the success that he has? You got to remember, yes, he's a DC guy, but he's also a Duke alum. So
I did not realize that.
Duke.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the other thing that I don't know if you noticed it last night. They did talk about it. I was like, no, you were in Dayton last night. So they talked about it last night. Part of the TBS crew was one Jalen Rose. And of course, Blakeney was on that Duke team that beat the Fab Five. And of course, Jalen made it known.
I remember the name now. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So that was one thing that Jalen made known last night, was that I know one thing Blakeney won't do this year in the tournament against Michigan. He ain't beating this Michigan team. So, of course, he most definitely enjoyed having fun with that. However, the success that this Howard program has been seeing under Coach Blakeney has been amazing in 6 years.
And good for him. I forgot that he was a Dookie. I don't know whether to root for him some more or not, but he's at Howard. He's at HBCU now. So I would ease my hatred off of that dude as an NC State alum. But that's great, man. That's a great story, man. And how about, speaking of great stories, Prairie View A&M. They beat the brakes up with Lehigh. It's a final 67-55. But how about this kid, Dante Horn? He went for 25 tonight, but this was his last 5 games, man. Got 5 games previous. 26 points against Texas Southern in the SWAC tournament second round. 26 points against Alcorn State in the quarterfinal. 30 points. He went for 30 burger against Bethune-Cookman in the semifinals, and 25 points against I think Alabama A&M in the final. Well, no, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. That was Southern in the final. They played Southern in the final.
It's Southern in the final, yeah.
So it's 15 points against, yes, my bad. 25 against Alabama A&M. He still got the 30 burger against BCU. That was a quarterfinal. And Alcorn State was the second round. That's my bad. Okay, I
That's fine.
I misread. But the point is, the dude's a baller. He's a bona fide scorer. And he got you 25 tonight in the win. So, and he's a senior. So, yes, I know they're a humongous underdog. But how about this kid, Dante Horn, and the job that he's done throughout the season for Prairie View A&M?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's just talk about what this program has been able to do, throughout their entire season. This is a team that before this win, they were 18 and 17.
Mm-hmm.
After actually the regular season, what were they? Regular season was yeah, well, they were 9-9 in the conference, having them coming in as the 8th seed in that tournament. And that's something I don't know a lot of people outside of the SWAC have really paid attention to. Since the pandemic, the number 1 seed has only won the conference tournament once, with seeds 5 or less or 5 or lower winning the tournament a total of 3 times. With just last year, Alabama State being a 5 seed and Prairie View becoming the second 8th seed to do so since the pandemic, following in the footsteps of Texas Southern in 2023. So I kind of talked about it on Sleazy Sports last week when we were predicting our winners for certain conference tournaments, and I should have paid attention to the trend that's been going on with the SWAC of picking a lower seed to win it.
Mm-hmm.
I fell victim picking a high seed. I think I picked Bethune-Cookman to do so, but yeah, that's what they do. They go in and they play well, but they did something that they normally, well, not, I shouldn't say normally. No, because Alabama State last year won their play-in game. So my hope is next year, at least, well, of course, they don't call it the play-in game anymore. They call it the first 4. Right. Hopefully, the SWAC isn't placed in that first 4 game anymore, but I get it if it's going to be a seed that's going to be lower than 4, well, actually lower than 2 coming out of that conference tournament. But hey, they seem to, well, they found a pattern, of going into the first 4 matchups and winning those now as SWAC team.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's been a kind of like a thorn in the minds and the sides of HBCU sports fans almost everywhere, is seeing like these HBCU like team squads from the SWAC and the MEAC in particular. Those are only 2 predominantly Black Division I HBCU conferences. But about them being in the playing games more times than not. Now, I would say this about Prairie View A&M. There was a point in the season, I think it was last week. I'm looking at the net rankings, because the net rank is what the committee bases their seedings off of, right? Their selections. Prairie View is ranked 300th at one point last week.
I'm not
300 out of 365 schools, if I'm not mistaken. No, 353 schools, I think. 353 schools. That ain't good. And and their record was they're barely up a 500 team. So on paper, they're mediocre. Now, the only Howard has a legitimate gripe in a sense, right? They won 20 games. They're by far and away the best squad in the MEAC. But that damn net ranking, right? The net ranking was 203.
Yeah.
That's below a lot of squads who won their conferences or either at larges or just didn't get in the tournament. So it is what it is. So to quote, I'll say this: Do I think any other insidious thing, and we know what the insidious thing is, that one thing is, have something to do with it? Sure, maybe. I'm not going to just sit here and be naive and say, no, we're two black men. Of course, we know better than that. I'll
Yeah.
just say this. I'm to looking at the net rankings of both squads, Howard and Prairie, especially Prairie View. 300 is atrocious. But Prairie View
Yeah.
A&M, I'm just going to say one quote by a famous former NFL owner who now is no longer with us. Just win, baby. Just
Yeah.
win. Just win. Just win your games. Look, I understand it's hard for a mid-major to schedule games against the big dogs unless you're going to their place. I get that. I get all of that. You just got to win your games. You guys got to do your best and win. I mean, you can't have bad losses in your conference. You can't have
No.
bad losses out of conference. You just got to win your games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at Tennessee State. Tennessee State did not have to participate in the playing games because they won a lot of their games.
Yeah.
They had a great season. I mean, that's all you had to do. Just win your games. Just win your games. But I understand the sentiment. I've heard people talk about that, like many are gnashing of teeth, weeping and gnashing of teeth, sitting in sackcloth and ashes. I get that. It's legitimate gripe, but you got to win your game. Your team's got to win their games. That's all I
Yeah.
got to say about
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of, Howard, yes, they were a 20-win team, but
that.
they
Right.
got losses to sub 500 Grambling early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course they weren't able to do too well against the majority of the other non-mid-major programs that they faced during the year. And then of
Right.
course, if you look at the conference play within the MEAC, everybody else was sub 500. So
Yep.
I understand why their rankings are the way that they are, and it won't improve until, like you said, even outside of the big boys that they play, if they're able to beat other mid-major teams, then
Mm-hmm.
the likes of the MEAC and the SWAC would get a little bit more respect as it pertains to these Kim Palm and other metrics that these teams are measured by as it pertains to their selection process.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. Well said. So again, ladies and gentlemen, just win your damn games.
Just win the games, man.
just win your damn games. But as I said earlier, I didn't get the chance to talk to you much of the college basketball season, I should say. What aside from Howard, Prairie View doing that thing, Tennessee State doing that thing, we'll close the show out on this. What stood out to you during the 2025-2026 season and HBCU athletics? This obviously aside from the MEAC and SWAC, this can include like folks from Hampton, our school, North Carolina A&T, Tennessee State. Well, we ought to mention Tennessee State, but basically, what stood out to you? What was the biggest thing that stood out to you this season in
Oh,
college,
the biggest thing.
black college
Oh, I'm
basketball?
sorry.
No, no, no,
Uh,
no,
the,
no, you're good.
the biggest thing that stood out to me was most definitely the run that Winston-Salem State women's basketball team
Mm,
went on this past season, with them making it to, I believe, the Sweet 16 um, after winning the CIAA tournament this year. So that wonderful run that they've had this year most definitely has been the highlight for me in terms of HBCU basketball.
mm. Wow, I did not realize that. And so you
Yeah.
said it went to the Sweet 16.
Went to the Sweet 16. Controversial loss with that last loss. Um, yeah, let me see if I can find out what that score was again, because there was a controversial play where a turnover shouldn't have been a turnover against them, and unfortunately it was. And there was a lot of controversy because to make it even better, Scott, in the replay, someone's head was blocking the play.
Hmm?
Yeah. Yeah, about that. Let me see if I can find it for you real quick, Scott, because of course, unfortunately, I do not remember what that score was off the top of my head. But yeah, they had a 28 win season this year. Um, Losing to Indiana University of Pennsylvania by a point,
Oh, wow.
65-64. Yeah, with that late turnover, late in regulation, which led to their demise, unfortunately. But yeah, this team went on a tear this year with their coach winning, of course, coach of the year in the CIAA. Coach Tierra Terry,
So what was that record again? I think you mentioned the record.
28-4.
That's great. That's a great
Yeah.
record. You see, folks, win your games. Just win your games. Win your games. Okay. Where can the great people find your good work in social media, online, what have
Well, you can find me everywhere at the Yard HBCU. And then, of course, starting this July, you'll be able to find my previews for the upcoming FCS HBCU football season on herosports.com.
you? All right. So check this brother's his great work. If you want to know all things HBCU sports, you're gonna get a nitty gritty. There are a few people out there who I recommend. He's one of them. So please check his great
Thank
work
you
out.
so much for that one.
Oh, no, thank you for your great work. And for the rest of y'all, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'm gonna come at y'all with leaving out more podcasts. I know I've been busy with a bunch of shorts on YouTube and TikTok, but it's been a blast, and I'm trying to catch up on my blogging. That's another story for the time. But anyway, thank y'all for tuning in. Enjoy March Madness. Take care, and I'll see you on the other side.